Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content that I'm making, please click that subscribe button. Also remember to click that bell button and make sure to tick that box to send all notifications so you don't miss out on any videos. With that in mind, let's get on with the video. What's up guys, welcome to Monchkinz Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Monchkinz logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. And welcome to my video guide on the Crystal Awakening batch number 5 Chaos fight, Usher of Miss Chaos. Now before we start this video, I do have a couple of announcements to make. The first one is regarding the live stream tomorrow. If you haven't seen my community posts, I did mention that I will be doing it at 10 AM GMT plus 11, which is around about 3 PM like PST. So if you are available around that time, you're more than welcome obviously to come around, and I do invite everyone to come around and join me on my live stream. Now I'm thinking around about 2, maybe even 3 hours of live stream, but I'm more leaning towards to the 2-hour mark since I do have a few more things to do regarding real life stuff. The second announcement is basically I am trying to reach that 1,200 subscriber goal by the end of the year, and we're really close on it. So if you haven't subscribed already, please click that subscribe button, and of course leave a like on this video if you do enjoy the content that I make. Leaving a like really helps with the YouTube algorithm, so you know, every single subscriber and like on this video is definitely going to help. So with that in mind, let's start this video. Okay, so we'll start this off as usual. We'll take a look at the weaknesses, resistances, elements that the boss can absorb, and of course its abilities. Let's start off with the weakness. This boss, the Soul Cage, is weak to the Holy element and has a double resistance to the Thunder and Dark element, and can also absorb the Wind element. As for its abilities, it has Leaf Swirl, which is a recast ability. You will see a little bar and you'll know when it's about to use it. This basically removes its own debuffs, frames excluded, increases its Brave, and will do a group magic Brave attack plus HP attack, and will also inflict a ton of debuffs on its targets. So it will inflict attack down, defense down, speed down, initial Brave down, max Brave down, turn rate down on all its targets, and will also become Fire Blades while it's on fire. Now Fire Blades is again just part of that recast ability. This is just a more powerful version of Leaf Swirl. As for its other abilities, it has Fire Out, which is a fire magic brave attack, Leaf Blast, which is a magic HP attack, Blast Wave, which is a group magic brave attack, which can also inflict an attack down debuff. Now next up, you will see a text that will say the fire started. This basically will increase its Brave, raising its attack, defense, initial Brave, max Brave, and speed as well. Now the other text that you will see is when it finally uses Fire Blades, or you attack it with an ice ability while it's on fire, and that is the fire went out. This basically removes its own buffs, frames excluded, and it will cancel all the buffs it gets from when the fire started. Next up is Mustard Bomb, which is a magic brave attack which can inflict a fire resist down and defense down debuff. This also has a fair chance of inflicting an attack down debuff as well. Next is Wood Spear, which is a melee brave attack which can inflict initial Brave down, max Brave down, and a large chance of inflicting a speed down debuff. Next up is Burn Spear, which is a melee brave attack plus an HP attack. This inflicts initial Brave down, max Brave down, and speed down as well. Next is another couple of texts that you will see depending on the level, depending on the percentage of the HP of the boss. I do believe it's around 75% and that 50% maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the first one is exuding an eerie aura. This basically will raise its attack, defense, speed, initial brave, max brave, and will lower all the target's initial brave. So that's the entire party, and this is only available at the level 150. And finally, we have the exuding an even eerier aura, which further raises its stats more than the exuding an eerie aura. Okay, so now that we know the weaknesses, resistances, elements that the boss can absorb, and of course its abilities, let's take a look at some general tips and guide. And the first one I have for you guys is to save about 60% of your abilities for the last boss. And the main reason for this is basically there are only 2 waves, and you really want to kill that white priest as fast as you can. So you have to use at least maybe 40% of your abilities on your characters. You may have characters that need setting up, such as Ultimisia, so you better use them and, you know, try and kill that first wave as fast as possible. Now the next tip I have for you guys is to bring in the boosted characters. In this case, I would recommend these 3 characters, which are Kuja, Lilithset, and of course Lena. Now other characters that you may want to consider bringing here are only limited to 2 characters. I'm sorry to say, but I do believe Warrior of Light and Ultimisia are the only ones that I would highly recommend in bringing in this fight. Now obviously if you have EX, you know, EX plus, max limit broken to 3 out of 3 on other characters, you're more than welcome to try them out. However, I don't have that much confidence in the other characters. I do believe Warrior of Light and Ultimisia are the best choice. Now for the healers plus Brave Battery option, you do have 2 options for this one, and it's between Charlotta and Porum, depending on who you like better. Personally, I'm more of a Charlotta person, and that's probably because I didn't get Porum's EX weapon, so that's why I would pick Charlotta more. But in any case, that's the 2 that you can pick. Now as for the summon, you do have an option between Ifrit, Shiva, and to be quite honest, even Ramuh is still viable here, even though the boss is double resistance to the thunder element. And I will get into the reason why that, you know, Ramuh is still okay to bring later on. Okay, so now that we have gotten away with the general tips, it's time to take a look at some strategies that you may want to consider implementing when you're trying for this fight. The first one is to obviously bring in Charlotta for your friend's support. Now, I've seen people actually use Quistis, which I personally don't mind, as well, as Quistis can delay the boss. And for the most part, you know what, there's only one boss, so you can delay if you, to your heart's content, if you want to do that. Now the second strategy that I would like you to implement is something that I mentioned earlier, and that is to kill the white priest as fast as you can. Preferably you kill it after its second perfect dodge. So basically at the start of the fight, it will use perfect dodge, you will kill the 2 ads, and basically you can attack it. Now you have a time limit for this one. If you cannot kill it after the second perfect dodge, basically you kill those ads once again the second time around, then you can attack it. Basically if you don't kill it at that turn or at that moment, well, you won't make the turn count. So, you know, pour a lot of your DPS on this one. That's why I said you're gonna have to use a little bit of your abilities for this boss or sub-boss, whatever you want to call it, and just overall save about 60% of your abilities for the last boss. Now the next one is you can actually use ice-based attacks, I mentioned this earlier, to take away the fire from the boss. Now Shiva can do this obviously, and even Palom can achieve this as well. Now the main reason I didn't put Palom in the recommended characters is I don't actually know how well he will do in this fight. I actually don't personally own his EX, so I can't really test him out. And unfortunately, water doesn't actually put the fire away, which is kind of stupid, I guess. So you can't use Iridia because Iridia is more of a water element. So unfortunately, you do need some ice-based attacks for this one. Now, the next tip I have for you guys, I highly suggest you use your summon after the second or maybe even the third post fire on the boss, basically after the second fire blades or the third fire blades if you can last that long. I personally normally would summon after the second fire blades. I feel like that's when I can do the most damage, and you know, because you start running out of abilities later on and the turn counts does add up, and I feel like around this time is the best to summon your summon that makes sense. So it also makes it so that you can actually hit the maximum amount of damage as you can, because without the flames it doesn't have that extra stat boost. So just try and summon your summon around the time where it basically is not on fire. That's basically it. And of course, the last one, this is also considered a skill, is to have good luck. Now personally, my party compositions does require certain amount of luck in order for me to pull it off. And I think for the most part, a lot of the party compositions that I will suggest will require you to have a bit of a good luck as well. So we'll get into that right now. Okay, so we'll take a look at some possible party compositions, and I'm doing this a little bit different, and I think this will actually help a lot of you guys, because for the most part I do just tell you what you actually do with these party compositions, but I feel like I can list some strategies revolving around these party compositions now. And the first one is obviously going to be the boosted team. Now I did pick these three, and I personally feel like these three are the best set, which involves Kuja, Lilithset, and Lena, and of course with a Kuja support and Shiva for the summon. Now Kuja's job here is to be the main DPS. Basically he will try and kill those priests or whatever those ads are called as fast as you can. Now obviously you will have to have 3 out of 3 Kuja for this one. With Lilithset you probably can get away with 1 out of 3 or maybe 2 out of 3 limit break on her EX plus, but for the most part you will need Kuja's 3 out of 3 here to do the most damage as you can, and preferably the support as well. The Kuja support will have 3 out of 3. Lilithset is there obviously for the debuffs, because the boss does not have any immunity to any debuffs, so you can take advantage of Lilithset's debuffs, apply it as much as you can. Now obviously you do have to save some of your abilities, but overall she's really great. Now Lena is here basically to heal your party, so that Windrake arrow, try and save as much as you can towards the last boss, because honestly that will be the main source of healing, and fire blades, they actually really hurt. Try not to get broken, especially you don't have the shields with Warrior of Light, so you will take some damage. So I do highly recommend that if for whatever reason you're running with this team, try not to get broken when it's about to use either Leaf Swirl or Fire Blades. Now the second team I have for you guys is what you guys are seeing right now on this video, which is Warrior of Light, Ultimisia, and Lena with a Charlotta support and Ramuh summon. Now I do have to warn you guys, starting from now on, whenever Ultimisia is mentioned, you do have to take care in the early stages of these fights. Now Ultimisia doesn't have a lot of HP to begin with, plus being a non-boosted characters, basically her HP is going to be less than 10,000, and that is with the Leviathan HP boost as well. Unless you have an plus HP, 1000 something, then you can probably survive the touch of the White Priest. So basically what I mean by this, in the early stages of the fight, basically this is where you need the luck I mentioned earlier. And basically the first attack that the White Priest will do is obviously his perfect dodge, and then followed it up with a buff to itself that will give itself some Brave Regen. Now you do have to make sure you have topped up all your shields on the next turn of the White Priest after that, and basically it will use Dark Ga. So if you have a shield up, it shouldn't be getting any more Brave from that, and it will have around 7,000 Brave. Now the next turn it will have, and this is the case because you won't really have time to kill those two ads before all this happens. So on its fourth move it will use touch, and it will basically have about 10k Brave, and basically can one-shot your Ultimisia. So if you don't have your Ultimisia up to more than, I would say the safest bet is 11k HP, then you may have to restart a few times, where the White Priest will actually target someone else like your Lena or your Warrior of Light that can actually survive touch that is like over 10k Brave. So pretty much you do need good luck starting from now on. Every time, like I said, Ultimisia is mentioned, this will apply to that party compositions. Now let's get into the more finer details regarding this party compositions. Now Warrior of Light is obviously there to provoke and to make sure that it will be taking all of the damage. You do have to make sure that your Lena has her Bloomstone upgraded as well as obviously having 70/70 and having her EX weapon on this particular fight. Now Ultimisia is obviously max limit broken. As for Warrior of Light, you do not need to have his EX plus weapon, but I do highly recommend having maxed out his armor. Now every defense matters here, because the Mustard Bomb is going to break through that shield once it's, the text of, it has an eerie aura or whatever it's called. So once that is up, your shields aren't gonna be able to hold on, and even with the all resist up, it just will barely save Warrior of Light after the first eerie aura, but after the second one it will definitely break your shields even with an all resist up. Now you also have to make sure that the shields are up for everyone every time it will use Fire Blaze or Leaf Swirl. Now fortunately it won't actually break those shields when it actually uses that, so you should be fine. You'll be taking less than 1,000 damage if you do have everyone's shield up, and you should be fine for the most part. Now the main DPS in this team will be Ultimisia, and make sure you take advantage of that. And of course Lena, try to save a lot of those Windrake arrows. Don't willy-nilly just use it. Try to save it as much as you can. Push it to its upper limit. When you see your Windrake's about to run out, that's the only time you're actually going to reuse it. And obviously the only time you're actually going to reuse it is when Lena's Windrake is actually out. Don't worry about the others, but make sure Lena will have the Windrake up just about when hers is about to expire. The others can take around those debuffs. It should be fine, but for the most part you're using the Windrake not just to protect yourself from a lot of the debuffs, but mainly for the healing. Now Warrior of Light can heal as well, but is not as efficient. You don't know how many times I had to redo this because I did not meet the HP requirement, because I felt like, oh, I can actually kill it now, but then I didn't, and I got hit by AoE and I lost a lot of HP and didn't have a consistent way to actually get my HP back. Now, obviously, the biggest question for this particular composition is having the Ramuh summon, and I did mention that earlier as well, that I will explain why is that. And it's basically you're bringing Ramuh here more for the buffs that it grants by giving yourself more max Brave. Now, you did know, if you were paying attention to the video, I actually swapped out Ultimisia when I used my summon and put in the Charlotta friend. And basically my party composition consisted of the Charlotta friend, Warrior of Light, and Lena, and basically this entire composition revolves around Brave Battery, and you actually won't be hitting any Brave damages at all unless you feel like, you know, you want to use Throw Buckler instead of Shining Shield because you want to save that for later. That's the only case, but that is still a Brave Battery, and for the most part, you know what, you don't need to use any of that Brave shaving because you're getting a lot of Brave, and that Charlotta will be doing a ton of damage. Okay, I think I've spent enough time on the second possible party composition. I'm gonna move ahead to the third one and possibly the last one because this video is getting longer. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna shave off just for this video the fourth possible party composition, and we'll just concentrate on these three for now, and let me know down in the comments if you do prefer it like this. Now, the third one I have here is Charlotta Lilithset with an Ultimisia and Cloud support with a Shiva summon. Now, this is a little bit of unique party composition, and why would you suggest Cloud? Now, honestly, you're gonna use Cloud on the White Priest. You are going to paralyze it, so that way you can deal more damage and you can have less turn count with this party composition. Now, other than that, the same thing applies here. You need a little bit of luck. Make sure Ultimisia doesn't get killed, and in this case, maybe your Charlotta can survive. I personally know that my Charlotta can survive the touch, so yeah, it's always going to depend on what HP you are on your characters, but for the most part, I do believe Charlotta does have a decent amount of HP, and of course the Lilithset will survive that touch as well. So you do need a little bit of luck in this one, especially if your Charlotta cannot survive the first touch on the boss. Sorry, the first wave boss. Now, you always have to make sure if you're using Ultimisia's EX ability and all of her abilities, that Charlotta's EX buff is up. That way you're dealing 20% more damage, which is really nice, and it really amps up your damage output. And other than that, really, Lilithset is more here for the debuffs once again, and Charlotta more again support Brave Battery. You'll have two great Brave Batteries here, and of course you'll be doing a lot of HP attacks. Charlotta will be your main healer here. She doesn't really heal a lot, but for the most part it should carry you through. Do not get broken. You do not have any shields on this one. Try to survive as much as you can, and that's basically it for the possible party compositions. Okay guys, so we are finally at the end of this video, and I really want to make this really quick because I don't want this video to go for more than like half an hour. So my final thoughts for this fight, honestly, this was one hell of a fight. Probably because of the party compositions that I picked, and obviously I didn't get Lilithset's EX weapon, and I didn't really want to invest too much on Kuja. I did EX plus his weapon, but I did not limit break it at all. I did consider it, and you know, I was really close, but I actually ran out of Gil, which is kind of surprising. I'm pretty low on Gil, so I didn't really want to, you know, grind for gold, so I decided to just stick with it. And for the most part, yeah, that luck factor I do not like it one bit, but I stuck through it, and when I finally got through it, you know what, I did a lot of resets on the last boss, and for the most part I thought it's not really possible with the amount of abilities that I have left, but I persevered. You know what, I had to change to Ramu. You have to have a very good Charlotta friend. For the most part, they should have their attack 108. Well, you probably don't need the attack 108, but for the most part, you need the max Brave 330 on those Charlottas, and it's definitely going to help out with the damage output. So, if I have to say, this is more annoying than anything, probably again because of the party composition that I picked, but it's really annoying, and I would put it in the same level as Deuce's Lost Chapter, and for the most part I didn't actually feel like Deuce's Lost Chapter caused me too much headache this time around, more than it did previously. But obviously it was still a hard fight. It's still a hard fight, and this one, even though it's 2 waves, it's definitely a hard fight as well. So I'd say, you know what, the party compositions are very limited of amount of characters that are viable for this fight. The pool is very small, as you guys seen with my suggestions for characters that you can bring. They're basically limited to like 5 characters, and I would like to suggest other ones, but for the most part it's really hard for me to do so. I have tried some of them. I tried Aced Out, and he kind of burned out, you know, so unfortunately if you don't have like turn shenanigans like Ultimisia, or even save abilities like Ultimisia, you're gonna run out of abilities on this one, and for the most part you need some brave shaving here as well. So definitely one of the hardest fights that I have ever experienced. You know what, yeah, I'm gonna just put it up there. I mean, all the chaos fights have been really difficult, but you know, this compared to Ultimisia's one is, it's like cakewalk. That luck factor in that one is, you know, you can manipulate it in some way, but this one, the target, you can't manipulate it. So that's it. I would put this above Ultimisia's chaos fight. Anyway, I think I will end the video right here. So please subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a like on this video. It's gonna help with the YouTube algorithm. Again guys, we are trying to reach that 1,200 subscriber goal by the end of the year, so every single one of you that haven't subscribed, if you do subscribe, you're gonna help me reach that new goal. And make sure to follow me also on my social media. I am on Facebook, and I'm also on Twitter at Monchkinz Gaming. And leave down in the comments below if you have any other different party composition that you use and worked for you. Now obviously if you don't have any of the characters that I suggested and you actually beat it, that's great. It's gonna help the community out. This is Monchkinz logging off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.